today I want to share some information that you can use regarding bust adjustments. You'll find several bust adjustment tutorials on my website already, but in this video I'll share some tips on how to translate that information to knit garments. I'm Alexandra Morgan from In-House Patterns and In-House Pattern Studio. I teach experienced sewers and budding pattern makers how to make and adjust patterns for fit and style. Now, in order to create a good fit over the bust in any garment, the front pattern piece must be longer and wider than the back pattern piece. Now, this extra length and width allows the garment's balance lines to hang level as the fabric travels over the projection of the bust. Now, the resulting excess length at the side seam is then taken up as dart volume so that the front and back side seams can be made the same length and of course then stitched together. Now, in most knit patterns, the bust dart is eliminated entirely due to the ability for the fabric to stretch and mold over the bust projection. But if you are larger than a B cup or so, or if you prefer looser fitting styles, this isn't sufficient to achieve a good fit. So it's likely that you'll need to make a bust adjustment. Now, making a bust adjustment in a knit garment is really much the same as it is for a woven garment. But since we usually want to avoid creating darts in a knit garment, we have to deal with the resulting dart volume in a completely different way. First, let's assume that you have a t-shirt pattern that does not incorporate any bust fitting. Now, you're going to recognize a pattern like this when you see that the front and the back side seams are of equal length, as you can see here. Now, when you see this, it is very, very likely that the front armhole will gape, especially if you are over an A or even a B bust cup size. Because what happens in knit pattern making is you generally draft everything flat because you assume that the stretch in the fabric is going to help the fabric mold over any bust projection that you have. So if you have taken my online course, the Custom Stretch Knit Bodice, you'll remember that we refined our draft to remove this excess from the front armhole. And this is an example of the draft that we do. And what we've done is we've closed the front armhole area here by about a 1/2 inch and created easing at the side seam to accommodate some bust fitting. Now, I have found that it is always a good idea to remove some extra length for the front because you always want to have a shorter front armhole length than a back armhole length. You'll always get a better fit, and you'll also get a better fitting sleeve as well. So what we've done in the course is we removed that excess from the armhole and transferred it to the side seam. But you can see here that it has actually created a garment with a front pattern piece that is longer at the side seam than the back side seam. Now, this is absolutely okay because in a t-shirt with only a 1/2 inch removed from the front armhole, you get about a 5/8 inch of a volume here that you're going to be adding as ease at the side seam, which is very easy to get into the side seam of the back. It's very easy to shorten this little area in a knit to match this. However, this particular way of dealing with this gaping front armhole only solves the gaping front armhole issue. It doesn't actually add any length or any width to the front pattern. So if you are over a B cup size, it is very likely that you will need to actually make a bust adjustment. Now, this example shows a standard full bust adjustment. It's the same full bust adjustment that you would use on a woven garment. And you can see that it automatically creates more dart volume. So it causes you to ease even more of the front side seam length into the shorter back side seam length. If you have more than an inch and a quarter of easing at the side seam of the front, you're likely going to find it a little bit difficult to ease that amount into the shorter back side seam length. Now, in order to compensate for that, what you need to do is consider how you can distribute some of this excess volume to other areas of the pattern. So you can see here in this finished example that I've actually transferred about 1/8 of an inch to the neckline, about 1/4 of an inch to the shoulder line, and about 1/4 of an inch to the front armhole. You can go up to 1/2 inch in the front armhole if you choose, if you have quite a bit of dart volume that you want to sort of eliminate. You can be left with a little bit here. 1/2 inch to 5/8 is very easy to ease into the side seam of the back. You can even go so far as to add a little bit more volume to the hem if you choose, if you've got lots of dart volume to eliminate. So as you can see right here is the amount that I've added with the full bust adjustment example that I've used here. So what you can do is, as you close this particular area of the pattern to its standard amount, you can distribute this volume to different areas of the pattern. And as I said, if you transfer about 1/4 to 1/2 inch here, 1/4 inch here at the front shoulder, and also about 1/8 of an inch at the front neckline, you can actually distribute some of that excess dart volume to other areas of the pattern. Now, you do not need to worry about changing any of the other pattern pieces, because the idea behind that is that the other pattern pieces are going to hold and stabilize the easing amount in the correct areas where it needs to be. So not changing the sleeve but keeping this at 1/4 inch excess means that this will be eased into this shorter length at the sleeve. So it's going to hold the ease where it needs to be. At the shoulder line, you're going to find that if you keep your back shoulder line exactly as it is without any easing, that back shoulder line is going to hold that 1/4 inch of ease that you have in the front shoulder. And your neckband of your t-shirt is going to hold that 1/8 of an inch at the neckline. At the hem, you don't have to worry about any adjoining pieces generally, but if you do have a band at the bottom hem of your t-shirt pattern, then by all means your band length will remain the same and you will just take up the extra ease in the front of your pattern. So this is how I would deal with the bust fitting in a t-shirt pattern. Now in this example, I wanted to show you the possibility that you have in creating a bust fitting without actually adding more width to your pattern. Sometimes the stretch in the fabric and the snugness that you desire in your t-shirt needs to be kept the same. So changing the length of the pattern will help you balance those balance lines that we determined in our very first video of this series, and it will help you keep the balance of the garment correct without adding additional circumference. So this works really well for a t-shirt that you want to really fit snugly around your bust, because it doesn't add any width to the pattern at all. It only adds length, which will bring your horizontal balance lines down in the front and help you level them out, and it will very likely eliminate any of these diagonal drag lines that you'll often get when you need a bust adjustment. So you can see the same thing happens here. I made a slash line along the bust line and I simply added length at that bust line level. The bust line position becomes this lower point simply because you need more length to go over the bust. The dart volume is increased here, which again means that you will have to ease more into the side seam of the back. If you are following along with the Jenny T, you can use any of my bust adjustment tutorials to increase the cup size of the pattern. But I want you to make sure that you recognize that the standard bust adjustments add both width and length to the front pattern. And this particular one only adds length. So I want you to make sure that you understand the result of each of the pattern adjustments that you're making so that you can accommodate for them if you need to. Now, if you'd like to learn about stretch fabric pattern making, I invite you to look into my online course, the Custom Stretch Knit Bodice. You'll learn how to draft a basic t-shirt using your own body measurements. I'll leave a link for you on this page. Now, next week, we are going to chat about back contour shaping, and I'm going to share how you can manage rounded back fitting issues in knit garments. I hope you'll tune in. I'll chat with you soon. Bye for now.